Have you ever thought science was boring? Do documentaries make you sleepy? Well, here's something new and intriguing. We're going to show you things you've never heard of or probably even imagined. We have a sculpture of lightning and a volcano that never stops erupting. I'm Ariel White, and hang on because here comes our fascinating Earth.
It's a rotating, educating, stimulating, captivating, circulating, innovating, gravitating, regulating, modulating, operating, oscillating, permeating, radiating, undulating, carbon dating, fascinating Earth.
Lightning. One of nature's most awesome creations. Lightning strikes somewhere on Earth about 100 times every second and can cause unbelievable damage and sometimes death. Lightning can surge through power lines or telephone lines, and airplanes can become flying lightning rods.
Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4.
Even NASA is concerned about lightning striking a launching rocket and will stop the countdown if a threatening cloud is in sight. In 1969, Apollo 12 took off in a driving rainstorm. Its ascent triggered 2 successive lightning strikes that hit the rocket. Thankfully, the damage was very minor, and the astronauts of the Intrepid continued their trip to the moon. When Benjamin Franklin flew his kite in a thunderstorm in 1752, he was incredibly fortunate to have escaped a horrible death. He managed to draw a lightning bolt down through his kite string and into that famous key, and felt an electrical shock when he touched the key. He never knew that he should have been happier to have survived than to have discovered electricity. One of the most amazing products of a lightning strike is called a fulgurite, a fused hollow tube of fragile glass, created by the force of the electrical charge. One fine summer day, as 2 geologists were surveying a cow pasture, a summer thunderstorm blew in. As they ran to their truck for cover, one stopped and shut the pasture gate. There was a blinding flash of light and a loud explosion. He fell to his knees. His partner hurried over and asked if he could breathe. Relieved when the answer was yes, the scientist explained that a near lightning strike usually renders the victim unable to catch a breath. The next day, the geologists returned to the pasture gate, and at the precise spot where the lightning had hit, they found a greenish-brown encrusted tube sticking out of the ground. It was a fulgurite, and was the result of the lightning strike fusing the loose sand into a glassy tube of silica. Fulgurite sometimes extends several feet below the surface and average about a half an inch thick. Fulgurites are also known as petrified lightning because, as the tube grows down into the earth, it branches into many smaller tubes, taking the shape of the bolt that created it. A sculpture of lightning.
This is Tara Kornberg for our Fascinating Earth.
This is the goddess Pele while she's sleeping. This is the goddess Pele when she's upset. Mount Kilauea Volcano on the Big Island of Hawaii is the most active volcano in the world. In 1986, there was a party to celebrate the 75th anniversary of the Hawaiian Volcano Observatory. Kilauea joined in the celebration and erupted, and she's been erupting continuously ever since. Sometimes quietly with boiling lava in the caldera, and sometimes with fury and rivers of molten rock. Kilauea has added hundreds of acres to the island and overrun forests, houses, and parks. Most people don't believe in Pele anymore, but everyone believes in the power of Kilauea.
Most people think of the Arctic and Antarctic regions when they think of glaciers. But in reality, this ancient ice exists all over the world. Glaciers and polar ice hold more water than all the lakes, rivers, groundwater, and atmosphere combined. Fully 10% of the globe is under ice today, and that equals all the farmland on the planet. Most glaciers are slowly moving rivers of ice that carve out canyons and valleys as they grind over the landscape at the dazzling speed of about 2 inches per day. They sit on mountaintops or curve down to the sea. They range in color from crystal white to every conceivable shade of blue, and many are dark brown or black from the earth they churn up in front of them. In Alaska's Glacier Bay, the weight of the ice moves the glaciers forward up to 7 feet a day. And yet, as recently as 200 years ago, ice completely filled the bay, 100 miles further out into the channel and more than 4,000 feet thick. The retreat of the ice that forms the present-day Glacier Bay happened so quickly it is unheard of anywhere else. It is possible that it was a result of the global warming that began at the advent of the Industrial Age. But even at a speedy 7 feet a day, you still have time to get out of the way. Occasionally, a glacier will get tired of creeping along and will abruptly go wild, flowing up to 100 times faster than normal. These surges that can happen to any moving ice flow are called galloping glaciers. In the autumn of 1936, at a lodge near the Black Rapids Glacier in central Alaska, the caretakers heard and felt a constant rumbling. When the caretaker's wife looked out the window, she saw a gigantic wall of ice, a mile wide and over 300 feet high, headed straight for the lodge. As it moved, it threw off house-sized chunks of ice that crashed down before it in an icy spray. It was traveling at over 200 feet a day. They thought the lodge was doomed for sure. But by some miracle, the glacier stopped about a half a mile away and never surged again.
This is Casey Strassner for Our Fascinating Earth.
Everyone knows that sharks are the most dangerous creatures of the sea. But did you know that the largest shark in the world won't hurt you? The whale shark got its name for a very good reason. It's huge. These gentle giants are also herbivores. That means they will only eat plankton and other ocean plant life. Small fish swim in and around the whale shark's mouth, keeping it clean. Sometimes, fish even live inside the whale shark's mouth. The whale shark is so easygoing that humans can swim with it and even take rides by holding onto their dorsal fin or tail until the shark gets bored and dives for deeper water.
In 1964, an archaeologist and a geologist were exploring some limestone caves in southeastern Arizona. They found many fossils and artifacts, but it was in one out-of-the-way cave that they uncovered something unexpected. They entered the narrow opening in the rock, and as their eyes became accustomed to the darkness, they saw an Indian mummy sitting cross-legged. The skin of his face had shrunk to the bone, giving him an eerie grin. He was surrounded by many articles that had been left with him by his friends and family for use in the next world. The scientists found baskets and sandals and bits of flint weapons, but the most unusual item was a carved wooden flute. It was probably a precious possession that he had carved for himself and treasured in life. In a moment of inspiration, the geologist reached down and picked up the flute. Raising it to his lips, he gently blew. Across the rugged landscape, clear musical notes rose into the pure air, a sound that hadn't been heard for over 2,000 years.